back to our channel. I'm Shannon Carter, real estate agent and investor.
I'm Jackie Hurtis, and I'm a residential mortgage lender.
And I'm Sasha Qualkenbush, a real estate attorney.
And we're the Property Queens. Today we're going to be talking about bankruptcy as a whole and also bankruptcy as it pertains and affects real estate.
I declare bankruptcy!
So Sasha, will you take it away?
Yes. So first we'll talk about Chapter 7s. They're the most common, or at least what I see. Chapter 7s are liquidation, and it is essentially wiping out all debt that you have. For example, if you have credit card debt, if you have a lease somewhere, if you have a garnishment, that can all be wiped away and you get to start fresh. So I have a lot of people that come to me that specifically want to do a bankruptcy just so they can have that fresh start, go get a new job, go get whatever it is, and then they can have the money coming in without having to pay it back all out to all their creditors. A Chapter 13 is completely different. It is essentially a repayment plan. And the court takes all of your creditors and consolidates it and comes up with a payment plan for you. So let's say it's like $200, $300 a month. But they'll structure it in a way so it's paid off within 3 to 5 years. And that is for people who have regular income that are making just a little bit too much, that they can't use the means test, which is a test that the government provides for us to test whether you're making too much as compared to what your average median income for a family is. So if you do pass the means test and you're able to file a Chapter 7, I would suggest going that way. Sometimes if you're not under I guess stress with your real estate holdings, if you don't have any real estate at all, Chapter 7 would be the way to go. If you do, or you're trying to purchase a home soon, Chapter 13 is the way to go. It kind of allows you to consolidate again and just make those payments to your creditors. I know there are a lot of companies that you can pay that do essentially the same thing. They'll consolidate it for you and you make payments to that one company, but you're also going to be paying this just extremely high interest rate, and it's going to take much longer to get that done in terms of making payments without having a higher interest rate. If you're doing it with the court system, there isn't an interest rate unless the court adjudicates one. So for example, a car payment that you had, let's say something crazy like 15 or 30% interest rate, once you file a Chapter 13, the judge might say, well, that's way too high, it's unreasonable, we'll allow a 5 or 6% interest rate, and they'll say that that's okay, and then you can just pay it on that. Sometimes they'll just take interest rates completely away. But anyway, so I think that if you are looking to purchase, it's really going to affect your future purchases. If you already have a home or something in your possession currently, Chapter 13 is a way to do it where it protects that asset. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to file one if you had a Chapter 7 in most situations. So Jackie, can you kind of tell us like what the term limits for purchasing after filing a bankruptcy?
Yeah, so she's talking about getting a fresh start, but just know that if you file a bankruptcy, you're not going to be able to go and purchase a home the next day. The seasoning, which is the time frame from the time that you filed and your bankruptcy was discharged to when you can purchase again, varies dramatically depending on the type of bankruptcy that you did and the loan program, but it can vary anywhere from 0 to 4 years depending on those two factors. Conventional financing is going to be the most strict on that. Typically with Chapter 7, you're going to be looking at 4 years out. Same with Chapter 13. With VA, sometimes you can get away within that first year with Chapter 13 bankruptcy, but you want to talk to your lender. The credit seasoning period really does depend on both factors, which bankruptcy you filed and then which loan program you're going to do. But just know that if you do go ahead and file, you're probably looking to purchase a few years out, most likely. Because then it does affect your credit score as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are weird situations where I've been able to do a refinance while the person is actually in bankruptcy, but you have to get approval from the trustee to do it. So it's case by case. Talk to a lender and they'll be able to tell you what you specifically can do.
Yeah. So minimum requirement for a Chapter 7 is 2 years. And then for a Chapter 13, again, like she was saying, a VA loan, you might be able to get away with it in the first year, but that's just a VA loan. So it's completely different. I think the government allows that specifically because of veterans. So talk to your lender. In terms of filing a bankruptcy, what you would need if you want to start the process is to calculate all of your expenses per month, so exactly what you're spending your money on. Also calculate your income. If you're getting pension or some kind of payment from a past employer, or if you are getting any money from a current employer, keep that aside. And then also you're going to want to keep all your creditors together and just take it to an attorney. And literally I've had people just bring like stacks and stacks of bills where they're just getting creditors in the mail. I have a lot of people that have medical bills. That's a huge thing that people want discharged. Sometimes they don't have insurance and then they go to the hospital and then these bills start racking up and they can't keep up with that, plus the credit cards, and they're not working. So it's just really, really difficult on them. And in those situations, like those Chapter 7s, those are honestly just people that have nothing and they need to file a Chapter 7 to just start fresh. And those aren't people that are looking to file and then, go buy a house next year. They're just looking to make it. Like they want to just live. They're going to probably go rent like a really cheap place and go get like a new job to start over. So
is there anything that you can't get rid of when you file a bankruptcy?
Oh yeah, student loans. Student loans and taxes. So like the tax liens, those are really difficult sometimes for people. I know if you call and tell them that you filed bankruptcy, call the IRS and tell them that you filed bankruptcy, depending on your circumstance, they might lower it. So that is one that they say that you can't, but in certain situations, they might be very lenient on it. I'm not too sure. I've never personally had a case where I've been able to get rid of one, but I've heard of attorneys doing that just because of a very specific circumstance. Student loans definitely can't, which really sucks.
Yeah. And generally, a bankruptcy will fall off, 7 years? Is that kind of the rule of thumb?
So the rule of thumb, because you can't file like a bankruptcy this year and then go rack up like a ton of credit card debt and like go buy a bunch of stuff and then like 2 years file another bankruptcy. So I think, and don't hold me to this, I think it's 7 years just before you can file another one. Mm-hmm. But I feel like maybe it might be 10, and this is terrible. I should know this.
Well, I mean, like, until it shows on your credit, like it never happened, right? Like it wipes away after 7 years?
No, you can have like a company that you hire that is the credit repair companies, and they can get it up within 6 months. Oh. Like to where it doesn't even show. So like it used to be back then, like bankruptcy was like a really bad word and nobody wanted to talk about it. And if you had that on your credit report or anything, it was just a really, really bad thing. But now there are these credit repair companies that will increase your score and you just pay them like for 3 to 6 months and they'll increase your score back up to what it was before. It's insane. So,
but they're not deleting it from the credit report.
No.
That's okay.
What they're doing is just repairing it to, I think, where it sends the bankruptcy so far down or something, but then also like in the report, but also increasing your score. So your score can be increased and then you can go get like whatever credit cards you want, but you're still not going to be able to get real estate.
Yes.
Right. That's what
like you can't get it deleted after 6 months.
No.
It'll still be on there. We will find it.
No.
But your score's right. You can get your scores out.
Yes, and it'll be repaired enough to where you can go get, like if you wanted to go get a car and have a car payment, or if you wanted to go get a credit card, if you wanted to go get furniture that is payment plan, whatever you want to do. But they do, and I counsel this heavily, you should use it as a way to get out and not like put yourself back in the situation. So they require you to take these credit counseling courses before bankruptcy and after, like before and after you file. And they're trying to teach you how to not go back into the same situation. And I think a lot of people just think like, oh, I'm going to rack up all this debt and then I'm going to go file it and then I can do it all over again. But the trustee will see that if that's what you're doing. Like you can't buy anything over $800 90 days before filing. Like they'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. What I meant is that doesn't it after 7 years like completely fall off as if you don't see it? So you can essentially, like, let's say you filed bankruptcy and then 7 years later you want to go buy a house, it's not going to really affect you.
It won't affect you at that point, but
Right.
they can
I think
still
it's still
see it.
on there. Yeah,
Is it?
I've heard that it's
still
on.
see it.
Like it's like you were saying, like 7 to 10. It might fall off after like 10 years.
Yeah,
I know.
was
I
gonna
think
say.
at 7 it's still going to show up on there, but scores can. Or if you went and established a new good credit history, your scores aren't affected at that point, or not terribly affected. But I think it's still on there at least within 7 years. It might fall off completely at 10.
Okay.
Don't quote us on this.
Okay, so one thing that we should mention is there's a difference between a discharge and a dismissal. So a discharge is whenever you go through the entire bankruptcy, you get to the end, and the trustee says, okay, I'll allow this, and he'll discharge your debts. If you go through the entire process and you get to the end and the trustee's like, I don't approve this, he'll dismiss your entire bankruptcy case, which means that he's not allowing you to go through the process. What can also happen is, for example, in a Chapter 13, you'll go through the process, and if you stop making your payments and you don't abide by the court's rules, they will dismiss that payment plan, which is dismissing your entire bankruptcy. And that puts you right back into the same position you were, where you are going to have to pay your debts to your creditors. And that's completely different. And if you are getting a dismissal, which I think in terms of getting a loan it is a penalty. So can you explain to them like what kind of terms are for loans for bankruptcies that have been dismissed?
Yes. So basically, it's just pushing back even farther the amount of time before you can purchase. So if, like, let's say conventional, you filed a Chapter 13 bankruptcy and it was discharged, you have to wait 2 years before you can purchase. But if it was dismissed, you have to wait 4 years. And it sounds like the dismissal could be farther out, correct? Because you've gone through the process, you're waiting. Now they decide that they're going to dismiss it. You have to wait 4 years from that dismissal date. So you could be waiting even longer than if they had approved the bankruptcy from the get-go.
So whenever you're getting a loan, they're going to distinguish for a Chapter 13, they're going to distinguish between a dismissal and a discharge based on if it's a conventional or an FHA.
Yeah, whatever type of loan it is.
Whatever it is. So they might say that just because you tried to get a bankruptcy and you were thrown out of the bankruptcy because you didn't go through it, or if you tried to do the bankruptcy and they said, no, this isn't working, it's almost like a penalty. They're going to require you to wait from that dismissal date as well. Even though you might not have even gotten the bankruptcy, you've gone through the process, they are still almost penalizing you for going into a bankruptcy and having it dismissed. It's almost worse to do that than just going through with it. So that's also something to think about. I didn't know that till Jackie and I just talked about this, but that is very interesting and kind of sucks.
So if you're thinking about filing for bankruptcy, I mean, plan ahead, think about what your plans are for the future.
Yeah.
Do you want to purchase property in the future, or do you already own real estate? And talk to Sasha.
Email me.
Our contact is below. So thank you for tuning into our channel this Tuesday, and hopefully you got some good information about bankruptcy. And if you have any other questions, like we said, definitely contact us below, mainly Sasha when it pertains to this topic, or Jackie when it pertains to the loan and you already have a bankruptcy. Anyways, make sure you hit that like, comment, and definitely subscribe. And we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye.